guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing my October wrap-up. Alright guys, so in October I read 12 books and DNF'd one book, and I'm just going to go through those and give you little quick overviews of what I thought of them. The first book I finished this month was Just Don't Fall. This is by Emma St. Clair. This is an author that I was told like I needed to read, and I understand why. I really enjoyed this one. I believe it's book one in the, I want to say it's called Sweater Weather series. It's a clean contemporary romance series set in the fall following a hockey team. So hockey romance, fall, and this is brother's best friend, right? Yes, brother's best friend, which I don't know why, but I really like that trope for some reason. I really enjoyed this, and I believe I give this a 4 stars. So yeah. I swear if I keep knocking myself in the glasses with books. All right, and then the second book that I finished this month was Airframe by Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton wrote one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Jurassic Park. This was my first time branching out and reading something that wasn't Jurassic Park by him, and I think that I have solidified the fact that I really like his writing. Like, he's a really great, gripping thriller writer for sure, but this was just not my favorite nonetheless, because I'm not that interested in airplanes, but it still kept me so engrossed even though I'm not that interested in the whole airplane thing. I believe I gave this one a 3.5 stars. So all right, the third book that I read this month was What Was Pompei. I read this to my 4-year-old daughter. I know it's a little bit older for her, this is like middle grade stuff, but this is just like a little history thing about Pompei. This is the second of these books that I've read, and I'm really enjoying them. I feel like they're a good like additional little resource, and I gave this one a 4 stars. I'm just not as interested in Pompei to begin with, but I mean, it was good. It did its job, so I gave it a 4 stars. And then the fourth book of the month was Another Move God. I cannot remember who this was by, but I have a dedicated book review for this one. I had a lot of problems with this one. I read it as an ARC and did not enjoy it. If you want to hear more thoughts, go over to that video, but I gave this one a 2.5 stars. So. And then I read Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. My BFF book club was rereading this. Well, I was rereading it, and they were reading it for the first time this month, and I so enjoyed this reread. This was my 5th time, I believe, rereading this, or reading it, I guess. And guys, it gets better every time for me. Like, I pick up on things I never picked up on, and I like know the book so well, but I still forget about so much stuff. I love this book. There is cussing in it. Michael Crichton does cuss. I don't think it's like crazy excessive. I believe it's mainly like D&A word. There was one part that he had like 3 S words back to back, and then I don't remember it ever happening again. So if anybody's like, you know, really sensitive with cuss words, just know that those are in there. It is a dinosaur book. It is also considered a horror thriller. So there is some pretty graphic, not a lot, maybe like 3 or so scenes of kind of graphic, like, you know, dinosaur attacking, eating people type of picture there for you. So there is that. So obviously there is that content. I'm not a horror girly at all, but I love Jurassic Park. I love the movies. I love the book. It's so much better than the movies too. So yeah, I love like dinosaur stuff. I've always loved that. So this is just, I just had to read it, even if it was, and I think the first time I read it, I did not realize it was classified as horror, and I was like, oh my goodness, but I also like loved it. So, you know, just take with that what you will. It's really your reading preference, but like, I love it so much, and yes, I love it so much, and I will shout to the rooftops that everyone needs to read it. And next I read Misery by Stephen King. This was my first Stephen King novel. I have a whole reading vlog going through my process of reading a Stephen King novel for the first time. I am honestly not a big fan right now. at all. There's a lot of controversy surrounding him, and I don't like to read books with filth and disgusting stuff in it, and this had filth and disgusting stuff for absolutely no reason. His concept of, let me just compare and use crazy weird things and just compare them to rape and have all these rape analogies in the book, was disgusting and disturbing. Like, man, you need to see a therapist. Stop writing books, see a therapist. Or better yet, go to church, Stephen King. That said, this was more crime, like serial killer thriller, and I did like a lot of aspects, and he does, you know, have obviously a talent writing to a point. He's a little heavy there with description. This could have been about 100 pages shorter, but I still gave this a 3.75 because there was so much that I did like in it, but it could not go higher than that with all the content in it. All right, the next book I read was The Match. I adored this book. This was a Sarah Adams book. I will say this is not my favorite of Sarah Adams. I really, really enjoyed the disability trope in this. Our main character has a service dog, and she works for a like service dog company because she has epilepsy. I believe I'm saying the right thing. Yeah, she has epilepsy and gets seizures. So she works and she has like a service dog and everything. And she meets this dad who has a daughter who also has the same disability as her, has epilepsy. So it's a single parent trope, and I liked the disability part. I liked the family connection. I felt like it had a lot of strong things going for it. But this was definitely the book that Sarah Adams put the most physical attraction override in, for me personally, that I've read. There was so much good emotional connection there, and like just like good talking when she had it, but for so much of the book she was focusing purely on, I'm physically attracted to you, and I'm physically attracted to you, and I'm trying to like not be, and some kind of heated like makeout scenes. So I know some people are a little bit more sensitive to, you know, different degrees, and I would say that this one to me was the most like steamy out of all of her books that I've read. And part of that I think was because so much of the relationship was just talking about like each other's body or the physical attraction aspect there. I feel like Sarah Adams might not be for everyone because she is a little descriptive or humorous in some things, but for me, when she makes it humorous, it doesn't bother me as much, and when there's still an emotional connection leading the story, it doesn't bother me as much to have those kind of steamy things. But when that's all it is, and there is a little bit of an emotional connection, that could have been something amazing, but she just didn't push on it all throughout, and she just pushed on the attraction. That to me feels like complete override. I can't handle it as well. So while I did like this, and I liked so many things about it, I couldn't give it more than a 3.5 because the steaminess and just pure physical attractionness surrounding these two characters was like really disappointing me, getting on my nerves. And yeah, so just fair warning, out of all Sarah Adams books, if you're a little bit more sensitive, I would not recommend this one. But if you're not, you might really love it because it does have some great parts in it. And I loved how she did the disability stuff. So, all right, the next book I read and finished was These Silent Woods by Kimmy Cunningham Grant. I also did this one for a reading vlog, reading thrillers for a week. So if you want more in detailed thoughts, hop on over there. This one surprised me, and I also will say this is not really a thriller. It's categorized as a thriller. People say it's a thriller. It's been like promoted as a thriller, but it's not a thriller. It's like a mystery, like literary fiction or something, but I really enjoyed this one. It took me by surprise. It definitely wasn't anything like I expected it to be, and I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. Okay, and then in between all those thriller books, I actually ended up finishing Revolution and World Missions by K.P. Yahane, One Man's Journey to Change a Generation. This was my woman's non-fiction Christian book club of the month's book, and this is basically about a missionary man from India who came over to America, and then he like created what is called the Gospel for Asia. His thing is trying to support missionaries who are already there, who are from Asia, from that country, like the national missionaries, and not so much keep sending the white men everywhere. I liked a lot of aspects of this, but there were some things in here that I was like, dude, what on earth are you even saying right now? There was something about him using this analogy of getting to heaven and then like having all the people of the missionary that you supported coming up and being like, oh my gosh, because of you, I came to Christ and everything. And I was like, that's not what heaven's going to be like, hun. But no, you're not getting praised. Only Jesus is getting praised. Like, yeah, in a sense, everybody's, you know, going to be together. But like, I don't know, the way he described the imagery was like we were being praised, and I was like, I don't think so. But anyway, so a couple of like little weird things like that, but it did shine a lot of light on how like different third world countries are compared to ours, and like the different cultural stuff. And how much a national missionary can make more effect than someone not from the country in certain places and aspects. And I did appreciate that, but I do feel like he was kind of like really heavily preaching to you on certain things in this. And I mean, the whole book is to kind of like sell you on the idea. It did at times feel more like a pitch than, you know, like a message, but it wasn't too bad. I still gave it a 4 stars, and I still enjoyed it and took a lot of good from it. So. All right, the next book I actually DNF'd. This was also in my Thrillers for a Week blog. This was The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Guys, thrillers aren't for me. They're too predictable. They're all about somebody cheating, some crazy family, yada, yada, yada. It just doesn't interest me. Like, nothing surprises me in these. So I DNF'd this. I looked at the end, and I had guessed it in less than like, or like in 100 pages worth of the book. So yeah, DNF'd this one. And then the last book that I read for that blog was The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This one I actually got through, and I enjoyed it more, obviously, because I got through it. But I can see why this one is so popular. I doubt I will continue on with this series, although it did end more interestingly than I thought it was going to end. The epilogue is what caught me off guard. I guessed everything in this still, but it was a bit better, because I was kind of like going through it thinking, well, if they did it, you know, if she did this, then at least it'd be a little bit more interesting. And then that's what she did, basically. So it was like a little bit more interesting, but I landed on a 3.5 stars for this, I believe, because it was like okay. But yeah, I'm not into as much of like the drama filled thrillers. So, all right. And then I read On Every Side by Karen Kingsbury. This is my first Karen Kingsbury book that I have read to date, and I really, really enjoyed this one, guys. I was very surprised. The first chapter starts out, and I was like, hold on a minute. I am not going to do well with this book, because it starts out and this guy's in his office, and all of a sudden he's hearing the audible voice of God, and then the angel of the Lord comes to him and tells him to take his shoes off, and it's like, oh, he was really there and all this stuff. And I was like, girl, are you just gonna be pretending that like everything that happened in the Bible is gonna happen to this guy? Because I'm not here to read that, like, because there are like similarities and stuff, but like that doesn't still happen in the same way because of the New Testament and all that stuff. So anyway, but she didn't quite do that. What she kind of did throughout the rest of the book was she changed it, and it was more of like hearing God's like voice like inside you, like an urging, a guiding of the Holy Spirit more so. And a lot of it was like pointed towards like reminding somebody of a verse and stuff like that. So I actually liked like that kind of aspect. I just didn't like how she started it out in the first chapter. I was like, that's too much for me, girl. But after that, I was fully taken in with the story. It was a whole political story about, and it actually was based off of a true story too. And it just like was all about this court case trying to take down this Jesus statue, and it follows several different characters, and I just really loved it. I don't know if it was just the political like intrigue aspect that I really loved, or what. Her writing was pretty easy to read, but I did feel like there were a couple spaces that I just kind of wanted to skim, so it was a little bit long, probably could have been cut a little bit, but all in all, a 4-star, and it's made me more intrigued and excited to read more of her books. I gave this one a 4 stars. So, and then the last book I finished up this month was Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. This is a middle grade following a little girl from Denmark during World War II, when the Nazis are in Denmark and have like taken over and stuff. And her family basically helps the resistance of Denmark to relocate one of their best friends, who are Jews, to get off of Denmark and taken to Sweden, that is not controlled by Germany right now. And this was just a really short, sweet little, it's one of the few World War II books I was told that actually doesn't like end super tragically. Like, it has a pretty happy ending, but the afterword talking about what was true and like how much of it was true and everything was a little bit sad, because, you know, it does talk about the true events, but the actual story that it follows, like, nothing super tragic happened. So if you're looking for something to kind of like instill the urgency and what all was happening without having it like truly devastating and just like rip your kids' hearts out if they're a bit younger, I would definitely recommend this one. I think I'm gonna land on a 4.25 for this one. I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't like anything amazing. I do enjoy Lois Lowry's writing all the time, so yeah. All right, guys, so those are all the books that I finished this month. Unfortunately, I did not finish my October TBR. We got a little bit of a bug here the last week of October, and it had me down and out for a couple days, so I did not finish. I'm in the middle of one I'm buddy reading with Whitney. That was Worldliness, edited by C.J. Mahaney, and then the last one was The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway. I'm going to go ahead and just push The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway over to my November TBR, because I don't have any classics on there, and I've got a lot of romance, and I typically go through those a bit faster, so I'm hoping that I will be able to get to it this next month. But yeah, those are all the books that I read, what I didn't get to this month on my TBR, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know, have you read any of these? What do you think of them? What was your favorite book that you read this month? And I just realized I have no idea what my favorite book that I read this month was. Oh, well, obviously, I read Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park would have been my favorite book and favorite read of the month, but it was a reread. So I'm not sure on the new ones which was my favorite at this moment in time. I would need to think on that, and I'm a little bit hazy right now. So yeah, let me know what yours is in the comments, because you have more time to think about it. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!